Our YouTube page, guys. We're happy to have you here. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us comments, do all the stuff.
What are you waiting for? Let's go. I got a drug addiction to feed.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. I'm Dax Holt. I am back. It was a fun little vacation, but I missed you, buddy.
I missed you too. We missed you. I was holding the fort down while you're gone, but it was a lot of work, a lot of stuff happening in the celebrity culture. You were in Atlanta with your family. Atlanta! You're in Atlanta trying to audition for Real Housewives of Atlanta, weren't you? You were trying to get some dirt on Kim Zolciak. Was everyone?
I was like, Kim is out. I am in.
Do you like Atlanta?
It was hot as F there.
It's
dude.
a muggy. There's no beach. You don't have that wind flow. It's
no. What you just have is humidity. Atlanta is beautiful. Like, I love how like green and lush that like there. It's just like you feel like you're in the forest all the time. That's what I really like about Atlanta. What I don't like about Atlanta is that I am a California guy who doesn't deal with humidity. So I step off the plane and immediately am just like drenched in sweat. And I don't get out of the sweat until I leave Atlanta. Like, I look like the weirdo. We went to like a Sky Zone type place. And I'm jumping for 5 minutes and running around, and my entire tank top was drenched as if I had just done a 4-hour workout. And I'm like, I look like the weirdo that's over sweating everyone else in the entire place. Yeah. And it's just because I'm not used to the humidity. But no, it was beautiful. We did a bunch of fun things. We're all over the place. Went tubing, zip lining, and a ropes course, and we did all kinds of fun stuff. It was great.
That's awesome. Atlanta, to me, first, there's houses in Atlanta. There's a section called Buckhead, which, people aren't familiar with Atlanta. It's a very like wealthy section of Atlanta, but the mansions in Buckhead are nicer than, in my opinion, the mansions in Beverly Hills or LA. Now, granted, some of them have a better view, but there's beautiful homes in Buckhead.
We were in like the Sandy Springs area. It's gorgeous. Like, you drive down the street and you're just like, how do people afford these houses? Like, they're just sprawling estates. And then you look at the price tag and you're like, that's $1 million property. What? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Like how far your money goes. Not only that, the gas prices, it's so silly, but it was like $3.20. I'm like, I haven't seen it at like that low since like 1980 here in California.
California gas prices are insane. And you guys have to drive so much. I mean, it's a killer compared to what it is on the East Coast. I've been in Atlanta.
You know what the other thing is? I don't know if you guys have these in New York, but giant ass ants. Do you guys have huge ants in New York?
I mean, we have ants. I want to say huge. Maybe sometimes you see one that maybe had like a muffin and it's like well fed or something like that.
No, dude, these ants in Georgia, like steroid size ants. Like, no joke, they were a good like half-inch long. Thick, they look like spiders, they're so big. And then I'm like, that's not a normal ant. Like, it's crawling around. I'm like, that's freaky. I'm like, the ants out here are tiny normal size ants, not in Georgia.
I've been to Atlanta maybe like 3 or 4 times. Weirdly enough, and I say this, I know our audience is largely female, and please don't hate me more than you already do, but I'm not a strip club guy. However, when you go to Atlanta, they say you got to go to some of these strip clubs there because they're legendary places. They're establishments. Like, everyone goes to these places. So there's this one strip club, and it's like I think it could be called the Claridge or something like that. And again, there's definitely people listening to the podcast screaming it as they listen to the name of it. It's an old bar, but they're strippers, and the strippers are also old, and they'll like crush beer cans with their breasts, and it's like a joke kind of a strip club. They're just an old, big women strip club. There's another one called Magic City, and they have a Magic City Mondays or Magic City Tuesdays. I was there probably like 6 years ago, and I went by myself to check it out because I was told like this place, you have to just see what it's like. And you walk into the strip club, and I've never seen it rain like they say, let it rain. There's cash, there's singles everywhere. Like, when you walk out, there's money stuck to your sneakers. And it's funny, when I went to the strip club, I saw Mike Epps.
I just like coat my shoes with like some silly putty and just like walk
Yeah.
out. I don't know what happened. I walked out with $100 stuck to my foot. Like that's not my fault. I didn't take it.
I was trying to get like my Uber money. I was like, let me get some money to pay for the Uber. But I remember I saw Mike Epps there. He's like, what are you doing here? I was like, what are you doing here? Like just laughing. I was like, yeah, I came to check it out. And he goes, they have a person there where you could get change for like a cash. You could put in 100 and get 100 singles. And he showed me how to make it rain. And he took $100 band and he took my band and he threw it at the ceiling. And the rubber band breaks and all the singles kind of like
and then were you like,
down.
No. And then you caught it all back and you were like, I didn't mean to.
It's just a weird thing. And it's just so funny to see like the culture there. And I know this is a little bit off our I guess usual celebrity shit, but I don't know, it was a random night and it was very fun. But you had a very domestic, nice Atlanta
Yeah,
trip.
I didn't take my kids to the old lady strip club. I'm sorry.
No, you did not. All right,
it wasn't on the agenda.
Back to celebrity stuff. Our guest today is a camera guy that I worked with. We both did. A guy named by the name of Dan Jones, who's just he was always a camera guy who always asked great questions on the street. He would ask them not clickbait questions, not questions regarding another story. He would ask them the most ridiculous, fun, and stupid questions that actually made very good content. So I'm excited to talk to Dan and kind of catch up to hear the people he liked or he had a relationship with, try to hear some good stories. I know he's not in the field anymore, but he was excited to come on the podcast. So I'm excited to talk to him. Before we actually talk to Dan, we read your reviews. That's right. It's the best thing you do to help us out. We really need you to keep the reviews coming in. We'll give you a shout out. Dax, do you have a review ready for us?
Yep, I got an Apple Podcast review right here. This one is from Timothy S. 1982. 5 stars, says, love the podcast. Hey guys, keep up the good work. Recently discovered your show a few months ago, and it's quickly become my favorite. I've been a fan of Dax since TMZ, love the rundowns and interviews, but your random talks are the best, especially when you talk about parties you've been to or how celebrities really are. Thanks for always making us laugh and entertaining us. Love it. Thank you to Timothy. Really appreciate you taking the time over on Apple Podcasts, leaving that review. And yeah, we just gave you a really random story about Atlanta and strip clubs. So there you go.
Yeah, Timothy S. 1982. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's true. Atlanta, by the way, huge celebrity. A lot of celebrities in Atlanta. And if you go to the airport in Atlanta, especially the Delta airline, keep your eyes up because every time I'm there, I always run into not just one.
I didn't see anyone.
You flew Delta?
Yeah, and didn't see anyone.
I see celebrities all the time in Atlanta, especially the Delta terminal. It's insane. It's insane how many celebrities I see there.
Busiest airport in the world or some craziness.
It is. It's a huge hub.
But Delta, obviously, that is their main station. So like everyone flies Delta. And honestly, Atlanta is the biggest spot for filming movies and television, and Disney spends a lot of money there. Like it's really like Hollywood outside of Hollywood. It's crazy how much production's going on in Atlanta.
Yeah. All right. On to our guest today. Our guest today is a camera guy who, if you want to call him paparazzi, if you want to call him journalist, he'll accept it all because he's just a good dude and always chill. He's just he's like me. He's a guy who roughed it on the streets for years, trying to capture some of the best content from celebrities all around Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Jones. Dan Jones, thank you for coming on the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you're in a pretty beautiful place right now. Where are you right now, Dan?
I am in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
You literally have the best background out of any guest we've ever had in the last few years. For people who can't see him, he is literally sitting in a wooded forest with a creek running next to him. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
and I am pretty jealous right now.
Yeah, it's right. Tetons is a beautiful area.
Very cool. So Dan, first of all, when people ask you what you did, what would you say your title was? Would you say you're a journalist? Do you say you're a producer? Do you say a camera guy? Do you say paparazzi? How would you tell people when you were doing that type of job what you exactly did?
I would say I'm a celebrity interviewer, camera guy, also paparazzi, producer, all in one basically, because we had to produce content off of relevant topics in the news with celebrities. And yeah, we did have to kind of hunt them down sometimes or be where they would be and
Sure.
get them to talk to us. But yeah, titles, yeah.
And I want to know, what are you doing now? Because obviously there's not a lot of celebrities running around.
No, I
Montana.
haven't
I mean,
seen-
yes, there are, but no, they're
There's a
not
few celebrities around
paparazzied
here,
or
but no, I'm
photographed as
not.
much up
I'm
there.
not. No, I take photos of mountains now, not to get paid, but just for fun or like wildlife. I went up to Yellowstone the other day and got some photos of some buffalo and beautiful landscapes and waterfalls. It was nice.
So
Yeah.
wait, how the hell did you wind up there?
Well, I moved to San Diego after Los Angeles, and it was during COVID, and I was doing like DoorDash or something, and there's no good benefits with that or anything. And so, yeah, I ended up just bus driving for the local school district, and I get summers off. And so I really like to mountain bike, and it's good to get out of Southern California. So I come up here and I go mountain biking in the Tetons, hiking and jumping off cliffs into rivers, and it's good. It's a good experience.
So you were like Otto from The Simpsons.
Yeah, I am. That's what people say. Yeah, pretty much. I had long hair, I had a mullet, but I got a haircut recently because my family when I went to visit them in Tennessee. They're like, "You got to get a haircut." Yeah, it was getting out of hand.
So do you miss the action, the hustle bustle, seeing celebs, talking with celebs, interacting with them? Do you miss any of that?
I miss the excitement of it and talking to certain ones, and then when you get a good clip on the TV show or the internet, it would be like a relief. Oh, I got another clip this week. Cool. I'm probably gonna keep my job another couple weeks till my next contract. Yeah, I miss the money going on nice vacations to like exotic places. That was cool too, and living by the beach.
Yeah,
I miss what comes with it, the money. But yeah, I mean the camaraderie of like the other guys and stuff too.
Dax, I don't think you realize when you do what we do, as far as a camera guy running around the street trying to get guerrilla style interviews, there's adrenaline when it comes to it, and it's funny.
There is.
I talked to. There's definitely an adrenaline rush, and I think I'm addicted to that sort of adrenaline. And it's funny. I've brought people like my friends with me to join, like see what I do for a living, and then they get the adrenaline. Like they understand the excitement of it. Like there's no adrenaline when you do a red carpet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe there's a little bit because you want to see if they're going to stop or what's going to happen. But when you're on the street and there's so many things that could happen, there's such a rush and adrenaline that it's hard to describe until you actually experience it. It's one like no other. So let me ask you this, Dan. How did you even get a job at TMZ?
Well, the funny story was I was a lifeguard down in San Diego in a town called Encinitas, a little beach community. And summer was over, and I didn't have a job for a while. I think I was couch surfing or something. I was debating whether or not to go to Hawaii. And I saw Max Hodges on TV when I was at the gym. I was jogging on the treadmill. I'm like, I remember that dude. I hadn't seen him in like 3 years. So I shot him. I looked him up on Facebook or something, or I had his old number, and I texted him, and I got a hold of him. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll let you know." And then I think I ended up going to Hawaii for a few months to do like surf photography because I was really into surf photography at the time, over at Pipeline and stuff on the North Shore. I did that, and then by the time, I was over there, and he's like, "Yo, we have an opening, but just hit us when we got back." So I moved back to San Diego, was doing some odd jobs. Got in touch with Max. He got me an interview. I drove up to LA, interviewed with Diana Dazrath, and the rest is history. It was pretty easy.
And for people that don't recognize the name Max right off the bat, he was the surfer guy, the long blonde hair, probably the most recognizable dude off of TMZ. And we actually got him on, when was this? Like a couple years back. He was one of our first guests we had on here.
He was. He's still a bud. Like we still talk to him. He just hasn't come on the podcast in a while. But that's cool that Max hooked you up with the job.
Yeah, it was really cool. I had some debt, so I got the debt paid off, and then I was living large, man. I was going to Indo, going to Australia. I was having fun surfing. I lived by the beach in Manhattan Beach. It was a good life.
So what made you different from anyone else that had a camera in their hand at the time?
Okay, I didn't really care about celebrities. I cared about surfing and like pro surfers, and I like sports. That was what kept me afloat. I was a big baseball fan growing up from the Bay Area, San Francisco Giants, and just like I would listen to a lot of radio, sports radio, and so like I knew a lot about that. I knew a lot about sports, but when it came to celebrities, I didn't really care. Like I didn't watch a lot of TV, and Yeah, I wasn't that into the LA scene. I wasn't like, I wasn't a big nightclub guy. I'd have to wait
So
out in
then,
front of night.
so
Yeah.
how do you get a job at TMZ then? Because I
I have a
feel
good
like that's
person.
one
Like
of the big requirements.
Max knew me as a friend. He thought I was like a funny guy, like good personality. So I was able to talk to people. I'm friendly. I'm
Mhm.
really outgoing. And so I think that is what gave me an edge. And I'm like creative and I could think of questions. And yeah, there's the internet. I would look on Twitter for comedians, what they're talking about, and read books about comedians' biographies and stuff, and that sort of thing to get content, get ideas for questions.
So if you don't know celebrities, how do you even spot celebrities? Like when it comes to me, at least, I can only say for myself. I remember when I first started doing this line of work, my eyes were exhausted at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Like my face was tired because you're looking at people's faces all day. And eventually I had to train my eyes to get to spotting. And now it's like, a sixth sense for me. Like I could see people from far away and kind of call them out, or I'm able to recognize random people, but you have to train your eyes. But how were you at spotting in the beginning
It
of
was
the job, and
tough.
how are you at
I
the
was
end?
tough.
Yeah.
I'd rely on other photographers, or it'd be somebody that after a while, you'd see celebrities over and over. Like in the beginning, I'd go to the airport and there was like tons of celebrities, and they'd give me a list, an email of like 5 or 10 celebrities, and I'd look at their photos on my phone, and I'd wait for them at the gate. And when they popped out, I'd put a camera in their face. Sometimes it wasn't even the celebrity; it was like somebody else that looked like them. So that was pretty awkward. But I mean, I watched some movies. I knew who the big celebrities were.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So do you remember your first day on the job at TMZ?
I
Like,
do.
Can you walk us through what it was like? They give you a camera. They say, "Hey, go to wherever LAX."
It was scary. I remember Jake Munoz was my camera guy, that the lead camera guy that took me around. We were driving around Brentwood. The first time I shot somebody from, I forget her name, but she was some actress from Madison. I can't remember the name of I can't remember. Anyways, so later in the day, we saw Ted Danson. He was getting laundry, and so I just talked to him about his laundry, and I was terrified. Like I knew who Ted Danson was from Cheers and everything, but he gave me a short interview, and they used it on the show, and I was happy about that.
He went to get his dry cleaning, or he went to a laundry
he was getting his dry cleaning, like a suit cleaning, and I was like, "Your suit looks spick and span. It's clean." And it wasn't that exciting of a clip, but I got him, and he talked to me briefly, and that worked. And then I think I went to Dancing with the Stars later in the day, and the situation was there, and Jake gave me some questions. He's like, ask about a grenade, like something about a grenade, jumping on the grenade. And I don't know, I talked to the situation. He was a big deal at the time. He was from Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And I knew who he was. But yeah, I just learned, like, I'm a fast learner. Had like a good memory for faces and stuff.
I remember my first day, we had a loop, and you had to drive around this loop all day. And you drove through the West Village, you drove through Meatpacking, the West Village, into the East Village, into Soho, went back into Greenwich Village to West Village through Meatpacking. We just did this one square all day. And as you did that square, and everyone knew it was the loop, you'd basically be able to run into people. And my first day, I ran into, what was the girl from Groundhog's Day? What was her name again, Dax?
She had
about Andy McDowell?
Andy McDowell.
I met her before, yeah.
Andy McDowell. And the guy I was with, he's like, see that person over there? That's Andy McDowell. And it was the most random spotting. I was like, whoa. Like, I just didn't even understand how you could even spot, because it was so crazy. It was like, he went by there, and he was smoking. It was the guy, Jared, who I was training with. And he was smoking a cigarette, and he did it so naturally. He goes, hey, you see who's over there? I go, no. He's like, can you spot the person who's eating there? I was like, no. He goes, that girl in the brunette, that's Andy McDowell, which is like, to me, such like a random name that I had no idea. And it was crazy. And I think that was the only celebrity I spotted that day. I mean, might have been like some New York people, like a Sarah Jessica Parker type thing, but no one else that I really could recognize. That was it. But I remember the spotting, to me, wasn't the hardest part, but it was the most exhausting part.
And by the way, you said that you don't get the rush doing the red carpet. My first day was a red carpet, and there was a massive rush. I know that it's a different rush because you know that people are going to be walking down the aisle, so you have time to think about questions and stuff. But I remember the rush that I got from seeing the celebs up close for the first time, getting to talk to them, and like getting that moment where they're looking at me or like fighting to get their attention or get them over to me. I think there's definitely a rush. It's just a different rush.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, from doing what I do, red carpets to me are the easiest thing. Like, I feel like a pro. I'm like, people on the red carpet, and I say this, it sounds very douchey or narcissistic, but it's just how I feel. I go on the red carpet, I'm like a wizard. I'm like, oh, yelling to these person, like to get their attention for them to come over, because I'm used to doing that in the street when they don't want to come and talk.
Yeah, they're there for publicity.
Yeah. No. So, Dan, do you remember what was the first, I guess, the first big shot that you got? The one where it was like kind of a difference maker for your career, or the one that was just like, yeah, obviously you got 10 Dance and that got on TV, but the one that like really
like I remember maybe
for you.
Okay, well, one time I was at a restaurant in Hollywood and Dave Grohl pulled up, and I had long hair like Dave Grohl. I looked kind of like Dave Grohl, and I talked to him. He's like, no, don't ask me stupid questions. And I'm like, no, Dave, hey, a lot of people say I look like you. What do you think? And his wife was there. She was smiling, and I put the camera on both of us, and he goes, yeah, you're like a better looking version of myself. So yeah. So that was like cool. He was like nice about it. And then after that, Paul McCartney rolls up on the street with no bodyguards, just walking down the street, and somebody had an album, and then he signed their like some old Beatles album. And so, and he was just smiling. He didn't say much, but he went in the door. But it was just cool to see Dave Grohl, huge rock star, and Paul McCartney, major rock star.
I mean, you don't get any bigger than Paul McCartney, really.
Yeah,
it's like the ultimate A-list star around the world. Honestly,
yeah.
Even the biggest stars on the planet get starstruck when they see Paul McCartney.
Yeah, his autograph was worth like $1,500 at the time. I called somebody and I'm like, hey, they probably made like thousands of dollars that day. So,
jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy because we've had autographers on the show and they make more money than the camera guys do. It's just it's like, man, maybe I went to the wrong field, because these guys are making a whole lot more money and I have to cry at night. I want to go back to this comedian. You mentioned comedians earlier when you were talking, and
what is the difference between filming, like an actor and a comedian, especially working at TMZ? Because I feel like comedians really utilize the power of TMZ and the reach that it had, because we were one of the only places that would really spotlight comedians and give them that moment to say their joke or whatever. So what was it like being a camera guy out there with these comedians? I
would stake out improv. I would just go there. I would go into the bar, have a beer. I would be, oh, there's Norm Macdonald. How you doing, Norm? I'm going to go outside. Let's do an interview. And he would go out and I'd talk to him and ask him a few questions for a minute or two, and it would be easy. The comedians they get paid to talk, so they're comfortable talking in front of audiences in front of the camera. Definitely.
Did you ever have like any of the big legends? Like, because there's a lot of little comedians, and then there's like huge comedians.
Yeah. I don't know. Chevy Chase, he's an actor comedian in the 80s. He was huge with the National Lampoon. Yeah.
Yes, he's in the legend category.
And that's one of the celebrities I knew before I was into TMZ. So one time I got a tip that he was out at a certain restaurant on Sunset Boulevard. I waited. He jumped in the car, and lo and behold, with him was Beverly D'Angelo. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? And I'm like, hey, where's Chrissy Brinkley? Because I was like, I always would watch that show. And he's like, oh, she's in the trunk. And so I was like, that's pretty funny. And asked him a couple of other questions. And I kind of had this stock question in my head. I'm like, at what age? So I'm like, hey, Chevy, I don't know if he understood me. I said, at what age do you stop getting morning wood? And he turns to Beverly D'Angelo. He's like, what, morning wood? She's like, he's talking about an erection. And he's like, oh, he points to his crotch. He's like, I've had one for 4 hours. And yeah, that was funny. And I don't remember what else I asked him, but that was like a golden shot because he was with Beverly D'Angelo's co-star in the Vacation movies. But
that's awesome.
That was cool. And now I got a chance to go into the studio and talk about it and get on TV. That was neat.
Was Chevy Chase nice? He was always a nice guy?
He was nice. I've got him twice, and he's kind of has an attitude, but he's actually nice. He had
Yeah.
the second time I got him, he was at the Grove. He was with his wife, and like his wife even held the camera, and they used it. I can't remember what I asked him, but I had like a cap on, and I think we joked about one of his golfing movie, a Caddyshack or something. But
Adam, have you ever ran into him? Because I've heard mixed reactions about whether people like to run into him or not. Because I've heard he can be kind of a dick.
he can be a dick.
I can't. Well, he might be coming on the podcast actually. I don't want to say anything bad about it.
I was like stoked to meet him, man. He was like my hero as a kid.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I've actually never met him, but he might be coming on the podcast, and we'll find out this week because there were some talks about it.
Well, I have never heard a bad word about Chevy Chase ever. Actually, I've only heard wonderful, glowing things.
One time, our camera guys came up to him, and he was blowing his nose, and he had like tons of snot. He's like, "Hold on."
That sounds like my nightmare.
It was like
blowing my nose when a camera's on me.
Yeah.
Well, not all comedians are like great about it because sometimes they feel pressure to be funny, and sometimes I'll film them, and I forget which comedian because I've interviewed so many, and the guy was just like, "Yeah, this one's not good. Let's just get rid of that one. Let's just bury that one," because they didn't have any like bump. You always want to tee him up.
Yeah, I used to get Joe Rogan at the Comedy Store or wherever. And one time I got him, and he's like, "What are you gonna ask me?" I'm like, I told him, and he goes, "Every time I do an interview with you guys, TMZ will totally twist the headlines, and it's not the quote that I said. They just totally change it." He's like, "I'll do this interview for you, but I don't want." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I don't do the editing. I don't write the stories." But
yeah.
So it's an uphill battle.
Either one of you ever run into John Lovitz?
Yes.
How did that go?
Several times. He doesn't like to talk about. He's a jerk. He didn't like Harvey.
I was gonna say he doesn't like TMZ. He doesn't like cameras. So
he's like, "Pay me. Where's my money?" Or yeah. Yeah.
I ran into him a couple times. It was very awkward.
Yeah.
What happened with you, Dax? Did he know who you were?
Oh yeah. He does. He is very outspoken of not being a fan of TMZ. So he was not happy to like. I'm like, dude, I don't have a camera. There's nothing I'm going to do right now. And he just was not into it, just even being in my presence.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. But not all there's some comedians that are always great. Like Kevin Hart, he's always great. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, Kevin Hart, that's for sure.
He's a great guy, and he tries to help you. Because, he understands. I think he understands it, and he tries to help you. But then there's other comedians, or there's actor comedians who aren't great. I think everyone can say that Will Ferrell is. It's not the Will Ferrell that you want to say. What would you say? Wait, what'd you say? Okay. What would you say about Will Ferrell?
Okay, the first time or second time I got Will Ferrell. First time he was wearing sweatpants. He didn't want to talk to me. He was at the airport. I'm like, nice sweatpants. Those are comfortable in airplanes. Didn't talk to me. Second time I saw him, I stayed inside of the airport. He was outside checking his stuff with the bell cap. And he was with his wife, and he comes in, and he's wearing slacks. I'm like, no, sweatpants. Wait, like, no more casual. You're keeping it classy. And he goes, does your mom and dad know you're filming people at the airport? I go, no, it's better than unemployment. It's a job. I'm paying the bills. And he keeps walking towards me, and it's getting toward the gate. And he's like, we're like chest to chest. I'm 6'3". He's 6'5". He's like a big guy. And so I just turned the camera off, but he was angry. He like wanted to fight me.
I think that like makes me so sad because I like Will Ferrell so much.
Yeah.
And then I picture him as being the nicest guy, the funniest guy, the dude that everyone wants to hang out with. And so like hearing a story like that just like crushes me. I'm like, no, I want you to be nice, and not just to like, the people you want to be nice to, but like everyone, like every single person I expect you to be nice to. It just sucks when you hear a story like that. Dan, thank you for moving. We can actually see you now. It's getting way too dark out there. All right, Adam, keep going, buddy.
No, I was saying comedians could be a little bit strange, but it's funny because it's not even funny. It sucks because Amy Poehler, before she kind of got big, I used to kind of shoot her a lot. We do I would tee her up. She'd be like, all right, what do you got? She was almost like Joan Rivers, where you could ask, Joan Rivers would be like, ask me about this, ask me about that. And we used to do that all the time with Amy Schumer. And we used to do it all the time with Amy Schumer. Then when Amy Schumer got really big, she just became like too cool for it. And she wouldn't, I was like kind of bothered me because it wasn't fun anymore. And it sucks. Yeah. Like Will Ferrell, you want him to be great. One day I saw Will Ferrell walking down Madison Avenue, and he saw me with my camera. and it was like close. We were like, it wasn't like I saw him from a distance. Like he like kind of walked up towards me, and he was walking down the street, and he saw me with my camera, and we both looked at each other, and he knew what I do, he knew what I was doing. And I saw him. I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He was like, "Hey," like he was like nice about it because he saw me not shooting him. But I did want to get a photo with him because it is Will Ferrell. But I didn't do anything. I just kind of let him walk by because I was sort of like, I wouldn't say starstruck, but I was like, "Whoa, Will Ferrell," because he's just such a character. He's not a real person to me. You know what's funny? How are like the action stars? How are like the manly,
like Chris Pine,
like the alpha dudes of Hollywood? How were they? Were any of them cool? Or were they just always alpha?
Colin Farrell. One time I got him at the airport, and he was nice to me. I think I asked him something about soccer, and I asked him, "What's the purpose of a mustache?" And he said, "They ward off evil spirits like you." But they still use the video, so I was happy. It was a short clip. What are the actions?
I have a question for you, Dan. Was there ever a video that you got that you were like, "Oh, this was a great video," and it didn't end up making the show or the website, and you were like, "What the hell? Like, this was good shit."
One time I got Steven Tyler, and so the greeter led me to his car. It was at LAX, and he's like, "You'll see who this is. You'll recognize him." And so there's this cute girl outside of the car smoking cigarettes, and I think he told me it was Steven Tyler. And so I started, just his daughter, like not Liv Tyler, but one of the younger ones. She's kind of hippie, and I had long hair. So we were talking about dreams, like Dream On, his song Dream On. And I said, when your dad in the morning, when he drinks a cup of coffee, does he talk about his dreams and stuff? She's like, yeah, I can't remember what she said, but I was having a conversation with her. We were getting along, and her dad pops out, Steven Tyler, and he's like, "Hey, quit hitting on my daughter." So, I mean, that like made me look cool. Like, Steven Tyler, don't hit on my daughter. But he didn't care. And then he jumped in the airport cart, and he's like, wheel me away. And his daughter like wheeled him. He's like, "I'm getting so old, I need help." And it was a funny clip, but they didn't use it. They pitched it, they didn't use it. I thought it was
bummer.
That's like one of those clips that you wish you could own just for your own like reel and stuff.
Yeah. And then another time.
But who else was some of your favorite people? The guys, again, that when you heard they're at a restaurant, or who were the people that you'd run towards just because they're great on camera?
I don't know. I can't think of anybody off. Kate Upton, like certain models would be excited. Like, I gotta get the model, talk to her. Like one time I got Kate Upton at the airport, and it was before she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She was like, the other paparazzi was like, "There she is, dude. You should. She's famous. You have to interview her." And she hadn't debuted on the cover yet, so I went up to her, and I was like, "Are you a member of the Hilton family?" She's like, "No." And I was talking to her, and it was good. I was like, she's like, "No, I'm a model. I'm on my way to the Super Bowl." And so I go, after a while, I was like, what's your favorite nude beaches? She's like, "You have a nice body." We were just flirting, but it was like good video. I don't remember all the stuff I asked her. It was good video. I was like, just asking her like trivia questions about the Super Bowl, like what Roman numeral are we in the Super Bowl? It was no. She had a rescue dog, and I was like, that rescue dogs are just status symbols. I kind of was making fun of her dog, and no, I was like, what's your dog's name? She's like, "It's a rescue." I'm like, "Oh, they're just status symbols." But no, it was a cool video because she wasn't really famous yet, and then like 2 weeks later, she was on the cover of. They had something of Sports Illustrated.
You know what's crazy about Kate Upton is how famous she got so quickly, because after like the whole Terry Richardson video and then Sports Illustrated, she was like the biggest, most popular model on the planet, and then she just kind of like disappeared. She
married
got married to Justin Verlander, and then like got out of modeling, and no one talks about her really at all anymore. And it just seems so weird I've never seen that, where it's like this model to like superstardom till then like gone.
It's gonna be a good comeback though.
I don't know. I think there's only they have a certain window of opportunity. Maybe she had
just started up the like ramp of superstardom. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was the it girl that everyone wanted to work with, and then just kind of got out of it. I don't know. It was unusual. You don't normally see that.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, so Dan, I want to know. Obviously, I asked you about the nice guys, but who are the assholes? You know, who
Like
are the guys like besides Will Ferrell? Who are the people when you heard their name you'd walk the other way, or people that you can no longer even like support their jobs because or their content because they're such dicks?
There's so many of them. I can't even. Who's the guy from Vampire Diaries? Ian Summerholder. He wasn't that nice to me. One time he pretended he was injured to get away from me. Like he turned. He's like, "Oh, you caused me to have a knee injury." And I'm like, "I didn't touch you. I was just like trying to interview you." And he was like trying to evade me, but he wasn't that nice. I think when I was a still photographer, I tried to shoot him when his wife was pregnant, and he like jumped in front of the camera, and I didn't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I was just trying to take a snapshot.
Any other ones?
Any other ones? I can't remember. There's like
when you covered.
Oh, okay. A-lister, Woody from Cheers, Woody Harrelson.
Oh yeah, he's historically a dickhead.
Yeah, he was. One time I got him at the airport, and I was like, "What's worth? What would you rather, run a marathon or get punched in the face?" He like didn't say anything. Yeah, there's so many of them.
Adam, do we have Woody Harrelson coming on the podcast? Am I allowed to say that he's a dickhead?
You could say that. Weird. That one
yeah. And then Ed Harris. That guy
Ed Harris is also.
Ed Harris is a total jerk to me. I wish I could think of. Yeah. I wish I wrote it down. That's so
well, funny. Then who else?
I want to know about sports stars. I want to know, is it easier to interview an athlete or an actor?
Yes, it's completely easier because they have such a short window of opportunity of fame, unless they are like O.J. Simpson and they become an actor.
I thought you were going with murderer, but okay, we went with actor.
No, he like parlayed his career very well. One time, so like one clip that I got with Kenneth Faried, he was like a big time basketball player for the Denver Nuggets, like 10 years ago. It was during the ESPYs, and I knew he was somebody famous. I didn't know who, and I was talking to him. Put the camera on him. He's like long dreadlocks, 6'10", and one of his friends took the cover of ESPN magazine. It was him, like with his hair whipped back and his body like half naked. And I was like, what about shrinkage when you guys were shooting for the cover of this magazine? Were you worried about shrinkage? He's like, no, I wasn't worried about shrinkage. I have a big dick. And then, yeah, like it was, and the camera was on both of us somehow they put so it was like, I have a big dick, and it was me and his face on like the headlines for the story on the TMZ. But no, athletes are great. I'd love to shoot athletes because they're like my heroes, like Terrell Owens, and I don't know. There's so many of Michael Strahan. He was kind of a jerk sometimes, Michael Strahan.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
It's funny actually, Dax. You know, so last we did a podcast with me, Yuri, and Justin Foley, and we talked about which celebrity was the coolest, and then just kind of turned like a 360, and we all said Michael Strahan, where on the way to becoming the guy who he is today, it was like we did so much for him. I wouldn't say we did so much for him, but he was so nice. And then when he got to that he totally turned to be like the complete opposite of what he used to be.
That's crazy. But I feel though that some people have that, like they're nice and then they get so famous that they turn the other way, and then if you get so much more famous, you kind of turn back. Does that make sense? Like you kind of hit that superstardom where you have to be really nice because you get called out, like a Strahan or what's his name, the Late Late Show guy,
James Corden.
You get called out.
James Corden was a total jerk. He was horrible. Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Him. He thought he was so great. He'd go to fancy restaurants. He wouldn't talk to you. He's just like one of the elite. He acted like he was like on top of. I don't know. Who's the redhead late show guy, tall guy?
Conan O'Brien.
Conan O'Brien. He was super nice, and he was a way better comedian, and he was like super nice to the camera guys compared to him.
Conan, I love Conan. Conan is. I find. Howard Stern says he loves talking to Conan O'Brien because his interviews are fun, funny, and he doesn't hold back. He tells the truth. And I personally, I love those interviews. I always go for Conan O'Brien just because I'm a huge Conan O'Brien fan. I actually don't think he gets the respect he deserves. I feel like he's just had an interesting career, unique career. What about like Jay Leno? Do you see Jay Leno drive around?
I did see Jay Leno. I saw him at the airport before, and he actually talked to me. But the times that I got him, when he was on TV, he wasn't that nice. He was very short. But then when his show got canceled, he was a lot nicer, making jokes. And
all right, well, I guess that ends our interview with with Dan. His phone just died. We had him out in the wilderness of Montana, so he had warned us that his phone might die, that he was running low on battery, and apparently it happened.
It's just insane. Like you had all day to charge your phone, but it is what it is. It happens. That's what happens when you're in. He's in the woods, but I appreciate him coming out. Dan is one of those guys that you could just if you're just listening to this and you heard some of those little questions he has celebrities great questions. Like honestly, I want to take that question. It's such a funny question where he goes, "What are the best nude beaches?" Which that's a funny, good question because the intelligence behind that is they might name a very good nude beach, but then the conversation goes, well, what makes a good nude beach? So there's so much conversation behind
the follow-up is what you really want to get to.
Yeah, the follow-up is where it's at, but that's such a great question.
And I have to say, every nude beach I've been on, it's not like you picture it. It's not like a bunch of beautiful people running around. It's all the like gnarly people running around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the people that you don't want to see naked are all the ones hanging out on the nude beaches. I'm like, what? Where are the beautiful people?
Yeah, they don't do that. It's a different kind of breed of people. It's funny. I knew a guy who was a cop, a state trooper in New Jersey, and he had to work the nude beach sometimes. And he said the bathrooms were like they would get calls of what was going on in the bathrooms. They said there was a lot of action going on in the bathrooms at a nude beach, the public restrooms.
Surprised.
Ew, wow. With all that suntan lotion though, it's gotta be gross.
It sounds sandy. Oil. Sounds like a lot of
sand and oils and stuff. Ugh,
no thanks.
God. But yeah, I love talking to guys like Dan, like guys who've done what I do. I love to hear their stories of who's cool, who's not, who you have an experience with. It's just, to me, that's really fun for me. I hope you guys enjoy it too. Dax, you enjoy it, right?
Yeah, I love talking to all these guys. It's also funny because I've told you numerous times that like I didn't get the opportunity to talk to a lot of the guys that we interview on here that worked at TMZ at the same time as I did. We never crossed paths. It was just like I was always in the office in the morning, throughout the middle of the day. A lot of the camera guys came in after hours at night, and so even though I know their faces, I know their names, I know their voices, this is kind of the first time I get to talk to a lot of them. So it's fun.
Even though Dan's phone died, we're going to have to tee him up one time and have him come on for another part 2 when he has a full, he just texted me, my phone died, of course. But when next to me, his phone is full battery, we'll get him on for a part 2. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, do one of those nice things. We appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We have a private Facebook group called Off the Record, which is a really, really good group. Follow me at Adam Glyn, Glyn. Follow Dax Holt at Dax Holt. Dax has already set up his Thread account, his social media Thread account. I'm already ahead of that because I'm a social media star. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.